Okay.
Okay, hello everybody. Happy Friday. Sorry, we have some things happening in the warehouse, so hopefully it's not too loud. Today we have Caitlin with us. Caitlin, where are you from? Do you
I
want to
am
just tell
from
a little
Salt
bit
Lake
about
City,
you?
Utah.
Awesome. And how long dog trainer?
I've been a dog trainer for about 3.5 years.
Nice. And what made you want to be a dog trainer?
Well, I've always had a passion for animal welfare, and I figured the better understanding I have of animals, the better I could help them. And that's kind of how I fell in love with animal behavior.
That's so cool. So she studied at the U of U and then got her veterinary assistant certification and dog obedience trainer certification from the Animal Behavior College. And a fun fact about Caitlin is that she works with exotic animals called wild wonders in Genoa.
Genola, yeah.
Genoa.
It's
Genoa.
past Spanish Fork, so a little bit
Okay.
south from Spanish Fork, if you know where
In
that is.
Utah. Yeah.
Yep.
Fun. And what kind of animals do you work with? I think.
Coyotes, foxes, raccoons, skunks, an emu, birds, all different kinds.
That's awesome. And so you just help them if they get like stuck, or I don't even know.
No,
What do you
so
do?
Wild Wonders is actually it's not like a rescue and release, so they live there permanently at their facility.
Oh,
So you can go out and they offer tours to the public. They do education programs for schools, things like that. So they have animals who cannot go out in the wild, like it wouldn't be safe for them to live there, or like they were found as babies, orphaned, things like that.
wow. That's so cool. I was
Yeah.
talking to my dad about like people who work in like safari reservations in Africa and like how they can like walk or ride up next to like lions and tigers.
I know, that'd be
And I
so
was
cool. I
like,
would love to do that.
I'm like, they're just like giant dogs. But my dad was like, well, because they were like bred in captivity and so they
Right.
weren't wild. I'm like, oh, I guess that would help.
Yeah. Well, a lot of
Um,
the coyote body language is similar to dogs in some ways, which is
oh,
kind of cool.
I
So
I feel like they're the same sometimes, but I
Yep,
watched,
and they play with
yeah.
toys just like dogs do, so do the foxes. So they're kind of just like big dogs.
Is a fox more like a dog or a cat?
I think it's a cross. They're definitely, I think, a lot more vocal than people think they are. Like they love to make noises and chat, and then they're super playful and cuddly. So I think it's like
Oh,
50-50 cat and dog.
that's so cool. I watched a documentary and it talked about like they got a pack of foxes and a pack of wolves and like tried to domesticate some of them.
Mm.
And sometimes it was just purely genetic. Some just would not domesticate, but some would, and their features would start to get softer and their tails would get bushier and like just
Wow.
more cuddly for the human. It was super
Hmm.
interesting. That's
That is
something
interesting.
I've posted that documentary in the community before for those watching. It's called Dogs Decoded, and kind of foreshadowed me working at a dog company from 8th grade. It's super interesting. Okay, so now we're going to have a tip from Caitlin before we jump into some of your questions. So you can
Yeah,
start
so
commenting
my
questions.
favorite my
You're good,
favorite
you're good.
puppy tip for people that have a new puppy in their home is to have a container of treats in every room of your house. So I would do Tupperware, not a Ziploc, just in case the puppy gets a hold of it. But it's nice to be able to have treats handy. And then training doesn't have to feel like such a nuisance task. You can just do it throughout your everyday. So if you have a container in your bedroom, if you have a container in your living room, your bathroom, your kitchen, wherever you spend most of your time and where your puppy is, you can do little bits of training with them throughout your day, and you can reward them for all of the positive behaviors that they offer. So if they're sitting and chewing on a toy, you can toss them a treat and reward them. Because the biggest thing with puppies is rewarding them for all the good things they do, and they will continue to offer up those behaviors if they're rewarded for them regularly.
That's so fun. Speaking of puppies, I didn't even ask you what kind of dogs you have.
I have 4 dogs. So I
Wow.
have a 10-year-old dachshund, a 6-year-old chihuahua, a 6-year-old heeler mix, and then a 2-year-old staffy mix, so kind of like a pit bull. That dog is my main like training dog, if you will. So his name is Eddie. He's 2 years old. I use him for most of our training videos. For different content, I take him to work with other people's dogs, stuff like that. So he's a great little guy.
That's so fun. Are any of them near you right now, or are they all doing their
No,
thing?
they're all out in the other room. I didn't want them to be all over the place.
Makes sense. That's so fun. So when did you get your first dog?
My first dog was another dachshund. I got him when I was 7 or 8. I think, and he's passed quite a few years ago now, but that was my first dog. My family always loved little dogs growing up, but now that I'm older and have my own dogs, I really love big dogs too. So, like I said, my Eddie is about a 45-pound Staffy mix. So,
Wow, it's a big dog. Yeah, and I posted a picture. I'll post more so people watching can see you and your dogs.
oh yes,
Um,
Eddie's in that picture.
so far I haven't seen many questions come on, but the 4, 6 that have joined, comment where you're coming from, what kind of dog you have, the name of your dog, and we can just get chatting. And if you have any specific training questions while you're doing that, in your tip, Caitlin, you were talking about how like you keep the treats all over and you do little bits of training throughout the day. Do you feel like you stick with one particular training topic? Like let's say you're working on sit. Do you do sit throughout the day or can you do sit and leave it and down and like you mix up all the types of
I
training?
do. So when I'm starting training with a client's puppy, I will obviously progress from easy to more difficult training cues. So like depending on what your dog is working on at that time is what I would focus on. But for keeping treats around the house, I don't necessarily always work on cues. I more work on overall behavior. So like rewarding them for, like I said, sitting at your feet and chewing on a toy rather than chewing on your furniture, or like rather than trying to play with your socks while you're trying to get ready for work in the morning, they're just sitting and taking a nap by you. So, rewarding those positive behaviors that they're offering on their own will help them to offer those behaviors more regularly and kind of teach your dog how to like live with you in your human home versus trying to find like puppy things to do throughout the day.
I like that. And it's something I've learned with dog training is you just puppy manage is less
Yes,
prone
the more you
to.
manage and the more you prevent those like nuisance or naughty behaviors from happening, the better and more like well-rounded of a puppy you'll be. Same with like chewing behaviors. Like if they have something to chew on and it's different all the time, and if you do enrichment toys and snuffle mats and all different sorts of fun things, they won't feel that need to go chew up your shoes or chew up your TV remotes or your furniture because they have an outlet for chewing.
I love that. So my roommate's been watching her sister's dog. So we've had a dog in our house the past like week and a half, and I loved it because I personally don't have a dog, which is shocking because I'm at the dog company. But I have a lot of vicarious dogs. But one thing I notice is that majority of the time when you're not like training and rewarding for good behavior, it's possible that the dog's doing something you don't want him to do. Like the
Yeah.
dog came and jumped up on my bed, and I was like, nope, like down, 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 and like it took like longer than I wanted it to for the dog to get down from my bed or from the couch. So, what do
Right.
you do in those instances where your dog's doing something you don't want them to do? Like, how do you deal with not giving
So
them
I
negative
redirect.
reinforcement? But, oh,
Yeah,
okay,
so I just
redirect.
redirect. So I teach them you can't have this, but you can have this instead. So rather than like yelling no at them or like scolding them or punishing them in any way for doing something wrong, just teach them what they can do instead. So like you can't chew on the sofa, but you can chew on your toy. Or you can't be on my bed, but you can be on your bed on the floor. So give them like an alternate behavior of what you'd prefer them to do. And that applies to like any behavior that you don't like your dog doing. So like say your dog jumps on you, teach them to sit to greet instead. So just replace that unwanted behavior with a wanted behavior.
So, when the dog jumped up on my bed, I would just maybe try to walk away because dogs usually follow and then
Yeah,
have
or
the
you could
dog
take
sit somewhere
treats
else.
and like toss them on his dog bed and redirect for being on the dog bed. So give him a reason to be off of the bed, and reward him for being where he should be, which is like on his bed or laying on the floor next to you or wherever it is that you want him to be. Just
Hmm.
reward him for doing that rather than being on the bed. If you feel like it's a super problem and he's always on the bed whenever he's in the room with you, I would put him on a leash when you're in there. So that way he can't jump on the bed because then he's not able to repeat that behavior.
Cool. That's really interesting. Thank you. Does
Mhm.
anyone else have comments over here below? And maybe I'm somehow missing them? But what questions do you have? How is training your puppies going? How old are your dogs? We'd love to hear from you. I know it's a weird time of day. You're all probably still at work. So if you watch this video later, please comment your questions still, and we can come back on our next live and answer them. So if you're watching this later on, please continue to comment questions. We'd be happy to answer those. It's awesome we have expert Caitlin here with us today. And if the 4 of you watching want to comment real fast, we can do a little giveaway. I like to ask like a trivia question about or something about training, and if you can answer. but maybe we won't do that today. It's kind of a random time, but I know people will be able to watch this later. So, Caitlin, what are some other important things you've learned just as you have 4 dogs and work with other clients? Like, what have been the
Yeah,
biggest
I
things?
think the biggest thing is really management, like we kinda talked about already. It's really teaching them, like, okay, what behaviors and skills do I want my dog to have? Especially when you have a dog as a puppy and you can really set them up for success and shape them into those, like, to have those behaviors and habits that you want, and think about, like, what's something that's important to me? Like, me having 4 dogs, I had to teach my dogs early how to share treats and share toys, and not all dogs can do that, obviously, but that was something that was important to me when I brought Eddie home with my other dogs who were a lot older than him, and he's like 4 times their size, is I wanted to make sure they were safe around him with toys and with food. So we managed that heavily. So like we practiced, it's okay to have your toys taken away, you'll get something back in return, or there's no reason to fight over food because we're all going to get the same opportunity for food. Um, and also making sure you're giving each dog enough quality time though for like training sessions, playtime, things like that, and finding a good balance.
Oh, that's of that. I love the question, what behaviors and skills do I want my puppy to have? Because then
Yeah,
it
yeah, because
helps
it's
you
gonna
know what to
be
work
a little
for.
different for everybody, like, some people's dogs, they really want them to have great leash and recall skills because they're hikers, or some people, maybe they don't really take their dog hiking, so that's not as big of a deal breaker for them. They're not concerned about that, they're more concerned about, like, leave it and drop it because they have little kids in the house who are always dropping toys and food and things like that.
Right,
So
or
when you get a puppy, you really
desensitization.
think about that. Yeah.
Yeah, the CEO of Pupford has a dog and 3 daughters who are from, like, 6 to 1 years old,
Mhm.
and, they're always grabbing the dog's ears and touching the
Right,
dog and playing with the dog, and they really worked on desensitization when their dog Doris was such a young puppy, but just because
yeah.
they knew they were gonna have to deal with that, and even now when we have Doris in the office or have to try to do a video with her and put something on her, she's, like, pretty good because she's desensitized to that.
Right, yeah, she was well socialized to it, yeah,
Mhm,
for sure, and
yeah.
that's another thing too is thinking about, "Okay, what in my human world do I need to socialize my puppy to?" Because sometimes we don't realize that, like, this is our world, and, like, they are just living in it, for lack of a better term, like, they, aren't used to garbage trucks, they aren't used to how skateboards sound, they aren't used to blenders, they aren't used to hair dryers, anything that makes noise or moves in your house is going to be, like, perceived differently depending on the puppy. So getting them used to things early, used to having, like certain sounds around them, used to having their toes touched, used to having their ears rubbed, will help them to be more confident and secure, like when they go around strangers or when they're at the groomer or the vet and things like that.
I love that, thank you. Um, I feel like I had something I was gonna say, you just said it. Um, I can't remember the thought that got away, but I had a question for you. So, in a general way, from a dog trainer's perspective, what does a well-behaved dog look like to you?
I think a well-behaved dog is a dog that has like a general set of manners. So they're not running up to people or other dogs, they're not jumping, they're in control of their emotions and they are able to stay under their threshold. So a lot of times I see dogs that go out on walks and they just get super overstimulated and really excited to see everybody, and they're not being aggressive, they're not being mean, which is sometimes perceived that way. They're just so excited and they were never taught how to be calm to like have get greetings. So I think that's a good skill to have. I mean, not everyone's goal is to have a dog that can do every trick in the book. You know what I mean? And that's totally fine. But just knowing the basics of like how to greet people, how to walk past other dogs on leash, how to have good leash skills, not running out of open door if like the front door gets opened, things like that.
I love that, thank you. Do you have any other thoughts? I think we'll wrap this up, and then later I'll contact you with the questions that people have, and we can hopefully answer some more
Yeah. Anything
besides
else
my
I'd like to
question.
touch on, I guess, like mental enrichment, nose work, things like that are really important for dogs. It'll help lower their anxiety. Like I know Pupford sells a lot of stuff like that, which is great. And you talk about it a lot on the page. Like the more enrichment and mental work you can do for your dog is going to help them be more well behaved in your home because you're giving them that outlet for their natural dog behaviors, whether that's digging, barking, scratching, chewing, like all of those things that sometimes we don't love that they do in our house. If we give them an outlet for that, it'll help them so much, like so much more with their training plan and to help them build a better relationship with us.
I love that. Dogs are such a blessing, and the more well-behaved dog you have, the better it is for both of you, right?
Right.
Thank you so much, Caitlin. We look
You're
forward to
welcome.
having you again on a live. We'll let people know when we schedule one, but I hope you have a happy weekend and
You
we'll talk to you
too.
soon. See
Thanks
you
for
later.
having me. Bye.
Bye.